Hey everyone, so I just wanted to do a little quick piece on how to create an external .json file from the objects that you guys created for your assignment last week. So you can see that I'm back in my my cookie scripts and cookie sorting files here. So I've externalized my JavaScript. I have cookie scripts, and you can see I have my array of my array of JavaScript objects here, right, which are my cookies. Obviously, for your assignment, you will use whatever the objects are that you created. And I just want to illustrate how we would actually turn this into a JSON file. So the thing is that a JSON file is a JSON object. What I have here is actually not a JSON object, it's an array. And so what I need to do is I want to translate this into a JSON object that I can then load externally. So the first thing that I'm going to do that I can load using that get method that we looked at today. So the first thing that I'm going to do, of course, is I'm going to do a new from template. JSON is actually always just a blank file. One thing about JSON is that it does not have JSON does not have comments. We cannot comment in a JSON file. So if you try to add comments to your JSON file, it will break. It's in some ways a good thing and in some ways a bad thing, but that's where we're at. Okay, so what I'm going to do, of course, is I'm going to do a save as, and I'm going to actually save this into the folder. I'm choosing to save this into the folder that we did today because I'm going to replace. I'm going to use it to. I'm going to demonstrate it with the files that we worked with today, so you can see how it works. Okay, so I've got cookie-data.json, right? I'm creating that file. I'm saving it in my folder from this afternoon. And now I'm going to come here and I want to get a handle on my object. So if we look at, let's go ahead and open up, for reference, I think is going to be helpful to look at the JSON file that I uploaded to Lore for you. Where is that? Loading data. Just so we can sort of do a side-by-side comparison. And actually, one of the really easy things that we're going to do is, of course, we can run this through JSON lint, right, to make sure that our object is well formed. So the sample that I'm going to look at, right, the thing I'm going to use sort of as a reference is the observations array here, because this is an example of a JSON, of an array within a JSON object. So what I want to note is that my JSON is always going to start with a curly brace, right, and end with a curly brace, just the same way a regular JSON, a regular JavaScript object would, right? Those curly braces are what signal to us that it's an object. And now in here I can see that, okay, so I have my colons, which is very similar to what I have here, except in my case I have this my cookies equals, but over here I have this observations and then colon, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to use this sort of flipping back and forth. I'm going to say, okay, here's my cookies. And I'm going to take this and put it inside these curly braces. Okay, so it's looking okay. I'm starting to see that the typography is reflecting what's in the other file. But of course, one very important difference is that here the property, the observations property, is wrapped in quotes. So I'm going to need to do that with this guy. Right, and the other big difference is that this is a colon, not an equals sign. And once I do that, and of course the other thing is that because my array, this is no longer a sort of sentence in a JavaScript, it's not a sentence of code in JavaScript, right? It's an independent thing. We're going to get rid of this this sort of sentence ending semicolon here, right? So there was a semicolon at the end of our array. We're going to get rid of that. And actually, that is pretty much all there is to it, right? I've now converted that object, that JSON, that JavaScript variable into a JSON file. And so the way that I can check this, of course, I'm going to copy this out of here. I'm going to pull up JSON lint, right, which is a website that we used earlier this semester. I'm going to paste it in, and it's going to say validate, and everything looks good. So this is going to, and it's also going to format for me nicely. So I'm actually going to, once I've done that, take this and paste it back in so that I have a nice, pretty JSON file, okay? So this is an example of converting a JavaScript variable that is an array of objects into a separate JSON file. And so if I wanted to see how this works in my file set from this afternoon, now of course you guys will be creating new file sets and new repos and all of that, but just to sort of follow through on this, I'm going to go ahead and open up my scripts file. And so in this case, instead of loading this UEMP data JSON, right, I'm going to change this to cookie data.json. Okay, and I can still keep the same function, right? But of course, I'm going to change this and say, cookie data, right? It's handy to have, you want to have your variable names reflect what you're expecting. And of course, the question of what what can go in this console log statement, right? So first of all, Fred data no longer exists as a variable, right? Because that was our reference up here, right? That was the local name we gave for that unnamed piece of paper that came out of the envelope. So how am I going to see what to reference in here? Well, this is where I have to refer to the JavaScript object in my JSON file. So I see that the property that I have is my cookies. So I can say, okay, I have cookie data, right? Because that's the local name for our data. And then the property is called my cookies. Okay, and then I can look at a specific object. I can look at, say, the first object, right, which has index 0, and then what property do I want to see on that? I want to see name, right? And so what we can see here is that I can actually change the data source that I'm using, and as long as I change the, the target file here, and I change my we actually call this an event handler, right? The event that's being handled is the retrieval of that JSON file, of JSON data. But I changed this code to reflect the structure of the new data that I'm loading, and that's kind of all I need to do. So the way that I can test this, of course, is I'm going to, open up my file. Now I'm going to open this in Firefox, right? And I have Firebug installed, so I strongly suggest, as I said, that all of you install Firebug on your local machines. I'm asking IT to install it in the lab. So when I say inspect element, I'm going to say inspect with Firebug, and you'll note that it looks that the console, sometimes you have to enable it explicitly, and then I have to reload it in this case, right? Oh, whoops, I opened the wrong file. Sorry, guys. Not the one I'm looking for. The console, when you use Firebug, looks much more similar to Chrome, and that is nice, I think. So here we go, open with Firefox. So you saw that. I didn't get what I expected, right? And I figured out, oh, right, sometimes we're not opening the file we think we are. So inspect element with Firebug. I'm going to go to the console, and here we go, right? So we have I have my console log statements from before, but here I'm seeing line 12, Oreo. Now, is that what I expect? Well, this is line 12, console log. So I thought that I was getting this data set, this JSON file, and my cookies 0 name. So the my cookies array, the first element, name, is Oreo, right? So I got what I expected. Now, obviously, for all of you, you are going to write out your comments, and be sure to edit your comments after you have changed your code, right? Your comments need to reflect the code that's actually there. Obviously, for all of you, this is going to be extraordinarily well commented, right? And again, can't reiterate strongly enough that your comments should include an English language description of every line of code. Every single line needs to be addressed in those comments, and it should include a description of what you expect to happen, right? So you can see it here. I expect that this console log statement will output Oreo in this case, because that's actually what I expect, right? And if you don't get what you expect, then you can note that in the comments too. You should feel free to put questions in the comments. We read the comments, and we do answer questions, and we do clarify things. So that's the place to do it. All right, so that is it. I will include the details of the assignment for Friday on Lore very shortly, but just wanted to give you guys that. And of course, feel free to post any questions to Lore. The sooner, the better. All right, see y'all soon.